On episode 169 of the 40 Plus Fitness podcast, I'm sharing 11 of my best nutrition tips. The show notes for this episode can be found at 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/169. Have you decided you're ready to make a change? To reclaim your health and fitness? The 40 Plus Fitness podcast is here for you. I'm your host, Alan Meisner. I'm an NSAM certified personal trainer with a specialization in corrective exercise and fitness nutrition. Let me be your coach as you find your way on your health and fitness journey. All right, let's go. A few squats here and a few squats there. And as you hit the daily goal each day of November, at the end of the month, you're going to be shocked by two things. One, the number of squats that you've done during the month. And two, how good your butt and legs look. You can join us at 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/squat. Go ahead and do that now. You can pause this podcast and go do that. Sign up at 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/squat. The last day to sign up is the 29th of this month, October. I'm really glad that I'm able to do this episode today because I think, as I talk to folks that I'm either training or just working with or, people I've met here through the podcast, nutrition comes up time and time again. And I'm glad that it does. Because nutrition really is the key to weight loss. You really can't exercise your way through the weight loss challenge that you may have on yourself because you just can't work that hard. When we were younger, maybe we could get away with a little bit more and not show. But as we've gotten older, it's too difficult for us to keep up a pace that's going to allow us to just eat at random what we want. So it really is important for you to focus on nutrition first. That's going to give you the most benefit of all the things you can do. I believe it accounts for 50% of everything that you do for your health and fitness. And so if you're not eating right, you're not going to feel right. And so I'm really glad to be able to share 11 of my best nutrition tips today. Okay, the first one should come as no surprise. It's cut sugar. When our bodies take in sugar, it does one thing. It basically initiates an insulin response. And that insulin response is important because that is the mechanism that our body uses to clean sugar out of the blood and protect the brain. The brain only needs a little bit of sugar, and we eat far too much of it. The average American, and again, this is average, I eat much less than this, so there's someone making up my difference here. The average American eats 150 pounds of sugar per year. Kind of put that in context. About 150 years ago, our ancestors ate maybe 2 pounds of sugar a year. So compare and contrast how much sugar we're eating today versus what we were eating then, and it should come to you as no surprise that we have an obesity epidemic. So cutting your sugar is going to give you the biggest bang for the buck of pretty much any of the other nutrition tips I can give you, and it really should kind of be the linchpin of any weight loss program that you're on. It's just to get less sugar in your diet. I don't want you to replace that with artificial sweeteners because they aren't any better for you, and in fact, they maintain a sweet tooth that you can actually adapt out of if you will just cut the sugar. And I know a lot of people, I just have this sweet tooth. Well, give it 30 days. We went through that 30-day sugar detox here a month or so ago, and a lot of people saw some excellent results. And I loved getting the emails from folks that were going through the challenge with us and just the benefits of losing weight and feeling better, their skin looking better, and then recognizing how bad sugar is for us. So cut the sugar. That's tip number one. Number two is drink water. Too often we stay dehydrated, and that puts us at a risk of a lot of things, but it also puts us at a huge risk for overeating. Many people relate thirst as hunger. They feel it as hunger, and they start eating. Now, to their credit, a lot of the foods that we eat, particularly natural whole foods, have moisture in them. So when we're eating these whole foods, we are taking in some moisture, but you really need to drink more water. And that doesn't mean sodas, again, even diet sodas. It doesn't mean anything else but water. So make sure that you're drinking plenty of water. One of the reasons this is important, particularly when you're trying to lose weight, is it will help you feel fuller if you're drinking water before meals and around meals. But additionally, your body naturally stores toxins in your fat cells. It's an easy way for the liver to get toxins out of your body very quickly. So, we're surrounded by toxins every day, And those toxins sometimes overtax the liver. So the liver will take a shortcut and just, particularly if you're storing fat, and will shuttle those toxins into your fat. And so now as you start to lose that body fat, those toxins have to be released. They're released out of that body fat back into your body. Now, if you're keeping yourself basically clean now, your liver can probably handle most of that. You may notice that you feel a little bad once you first start losing weight, particularly if you cut the sugar and you start noticing you're losing weight. You may actually notice that you get headaches and whatnot. That's not just because of caffeine or whatnot. That's sometimes because you're releasing toxins. You're starting to lose that fat and inflammation, and those toxins are being released in your body. So you need the water to kind of help flush all that out. Additionally, water is very beneficial for your joints. You want to make sure that you stay hydrated so that your joints don't hurt. Makes it easier for you to do exercise. And particularly in hotter weather or colder weather, it's important to make sure that you stay hydrated, because that can get into a serious health issue if you're pushing yourself working out in either very hot weather or very cold weather. It's very easy to get dehydrated. So making sure that you drink plenty of water. And you'll know you're fairly well hydrated if your urine is coming out clear. So, if your urine's very yellow or brown, unless you like taking some vitamins and then that's what's there, it typically is that you are dehydrated and you need to drink more water. So, pay attention to your body, give your body what it needs, and I can tell you it needs more water. Okay, simple carbs. Simple carbs are things like bread, rice, potatoes. Basically, those simple carbs, when they get into your bloodstream, they're treated just like sugar. Now, one of the main reasons I didn't include it with the sugar is people don't look at them that way. And it's very easy for you to look on labels and see how much sugar you're eating. But then paying attention to the types of carbs that you're eating is also very important. You should be making sure that you get plenty of fiber and not these simple little carbs. So when they process foods and they put it in a box, typically they're breaking down that food into a simple carbohydrate. That raises your blood sugar and does the same insulin response as if you ate sugar. In fact, the GI, which is the glycemic index for some of these simple carbs, is higher than table sugar. So pay a little bit of attention to lowering your total carbs, lowering your simple carbs. That doesn't mean you have to get rid of all carbs if you don't want. You don't have to take that approach. But when you're going to eat carbs, make sure that they're good carbs for you. That means they're fiber or they're a slow-burning carb, like sweet potatoes and things like that. So try to stay away from the simple carbs, and you'll notice that your weight loss will come on fairly easily. The next tip number 4, is protein. Many times, people will eat far too much protein or far too less protein than what their body needs. If you're lifting, if you're moving, if you're doing things, your body needs protein as a building material, period. Too much protein, and your body is basically going to go through a process called gluconeogenesis, and it's going to turn that protein into blood sugar so you can use it for fuel. It's kind of like, imagine yourself building a brick wall, and if someone brought you too many bricks, your body has to store those bricks. You have to store those bricks somewhere, and your body does that by turning it into sugar and trying to use it as fuel first. But then again, if you're eating too much, it's potential that you already have enough fuel, and therefore it's getting shuttled into fat. Okay, so make sure that you're getting the right amount of protein, and you can generally tell that you're getting the right amount of protein when you're recovering properly from your workouts. You can tweak your protein down a little and see if you're still recovering from your workouts, and just find that base level for what your body needs for what your activity level is. Tip number 5 is eat whole foods. If you can't recognize it as something that has grown in the ground or is running around, little animals or big animals, it's probably not something that you should be eating. If it comes in a box, it's very likely something that you shouldn't be eating. I try to stay to just whole foods. I very seldom like to eat anything that comes from a box, a can, or a jar. That doesn't mean that I don't. I just make sure that that's not predominantly what I'm eating. My food does not come out of a box or something that I can microwave. It typically is food that I prepared. It's food that I bought in the grocery store, that I recognized grew on a tree, a vine, or was dug up, or was something that was running around, a little critter or a big critter. It's food. It's what our ancestors would recognize as food. If you took someone that lived 100 years ago and walked them into a grocery store, they wouldn't recognize what we're eating as food, because that's not what they ate. That's not what they were brought up on. They grew their own food in many cases, or they went to the market, they bought real food. So make sure that you're staying with whole foods, and the whole foods, you can go, really crazy with that, but you don't have to spend a ton of money to eat whole foods. I know that it seems that way, but if you bought a 16-ounce steak at the grocery store, probably going to cost you around $10 to $11, depending on the grade of the meat that you buy. Again, this is a nice cut of meat, a pound of meat. Now, that pound of meat should feed 4 people. That should be 4 meals. So when you take the $10 that you would have spent to buy that meat, and then maybe some vegetables to go along with it, you're maybe spending $3 for that total meal each day. So if you could eat for $3, which is about what you would pay for McDonald's Happy Meal, wouldn't that be a great deal? And it is. You just have to take the time to prepare it and prepare the whole food. So I think if you really start looking, shopping, going to farmers markets, going to co-ops, things like that, you can find some great food at reasonable prices. And do stick to whole foods predominantly for what you eat day in and day out. The next is to read labels. If you are going to buy something in a box, or you are going to eat something, know what you're putting in your body. Most of the processed foods are crap. They just are. They put crap in there so that they can stay on the shelf for a long, long time. And, there's no reason for our food to last a long, long time. We have all the food available that we need, and most of it's locally grown if you look for it. And, eating that seasonal way and making sure that you're eating healthy is going to get there. But when you do need to eat something out of a box because of convenience or just because of a problem, read the label. Understand what you're putting in your box. Monosodium glutamate is an additive that they put in most of our food. And it's just sheer poison. So read the labels and understand what these things are. If you can't pronounce it, don't eat it is a mantra that a lot of people use. But sometimes that's just not practical. But at least read the labels and understand if you got 2 products to compare, one of them says natural all over the label or organic all over the label, but then you start reading it and it's got soy products, it's got all kinds of chemicals in it. Yeah, those chemicals naturally occur in the world, so they can call it natural, but they're not natural for us to eat. So again, make sure you're reading the labels and know what you're putting in your body. The next tip is portion size. Now, we have been conditioned by our restaurants, particularly the fast food restaurants, to eat far too much food at each meal. We go in and we want the Big Mac, the Whopper, the Big Gulp, these value meals, these things that basically upsizing your stuff. And now we walk into a restaurant, they know that we expect this huge plate of food. Well, we don't need 16 pounds of meat. 16 ounces of meat. You just don't. So when you go into a restaurant and they offer you that much food, package it up, ask for a box. That might be 2 or 3 meals that's sitting on your plate right there. So have a general understanding of what the portion sizes should be. For a piece of meat, it should basically be about the size of the palm of your hand and about as thick as your hand. If it's a little thicker, you might need a smaller piece. But generally, a portion of chicken or beef is about the size of your palm. So if you look at your palm right there, that's about, at that point, 4 ounces of meat, depending on the size of your hand, 3 to 4 ounces. So, make sure that you're eating real food, but, make sure you're eating proper portion sizes. A lot of the boxes and foods that we buy, it looks like there's just one portion there because that's what we've been conditioned to do. But when you read the calories, it's, there's only 110 calories in this thing. But when you read the box, you find out there's 3 servings in that box. So that's actually 330 calories, 3 times as much as you thought it was. So pay attention to portion sizes. The next is logging. If you take the time to start logging the food that you're eating, you'll notice that you start eating less. It's just a natural occurrence because now you're doing something to make you pay attention to the eating. There's none of this carrying the bag to the couch and sitting there eating the whole bag. You now are logging it. So now you're aware that you're going to be logging that and you are going to be paying much more attention to the quantities and what you're putting in your body. And so logging is a great tool. I also encourage, kind of as a side along to this, is that you do a couple of things. The other thing you can do is take pictures of your food. And if you start doing that, again, it gives you this general awareness of what food you're putting in your body. And when you go to grab something that's not healthy and you're sitting there saying, well, I got to log this and I got to take a picture of it, you'll talk yourself out of some of those impulse eatings, those craving type eatings. Try some water, again, because you might not be actually hungry. You might be thirsty, or you might just be bored. So find something to occupy your mind. The other thing besides the taking the pictures and the logging is a lot of times what I'll do when I am trying to cut is I will do pre-logging, which means I will actually write out what I'm going to eat for the day so that I can hit the numbers that I want to hit, be it, keeping my sugar below 50 grams. I want to hit a certain protein level. I want to hit a certain fat percentage, all the different things that I'm after for that food, for that meal, for that day. And then I can pack up the food that I want to eat that day for each meal. So then basically it's very easy for me to say, okay, now this is my breakfast. I know what that is. I'm going to take my lunch and my snacks, and then I know I'm going to have for dinner. It's sitting in the refrigerator right now. I can either warm it up or I may have to cook it, but I know what it is and I know the serving sizes I need to hit my numbers for the day. So do a little bit of pre-logging, and that'll help you plan, and so that you don't overeat and that you do have the food with you, so you're not in the situation where you're hitting the snack machine midday because you planned a healthy snack and you brought it with you. Okay, the next thing is to slow down. When we're eating, our body is producing hormones. Now, we've already talked about insulin, and insulin's responsibility is to shuttle the blood sugar out of our blood. Now, after we've had enough, there's two symbiotic type hormones. One is called ghrelin and one is called leptin. And these two are the signaling hormones for when you're hungry and when you're satiated. So a lot of times we eat so fast that we don't let that signaling work out. And as a result, we tend to overeat. So taking your time, being mindful with the food that you're eating is going to allow that signaling to work. Things that you can do to slow down is have a conversation. Don't eat the food and watching the TV if you're concerned about overeating. Sit down and have a conversation with your family. That will by nature of having to stop and talk, when it's your turn to talk, then you're naturally going to stop. Another thing that you can do is just get in the habit of putting your fork down after each bite. The fork was not intended to be a shovel to throw food in your mouth one bite after another. Take your time, put the fork down, chew the food properly. That's where you're starting to break down and get good nutrition out of your food. Is some of the chemicals and things that are going on, the enzymes that are going on in your mouth are helping you get most of the nutrition out of that food as a part of the digestion piece. The digestion does not start in the stomach. It actually starts in the brain as you see and smell the food. But then if you take the time to chew it, you're really giving your body the best opportunity to get the most of the nutrition that's in that food. So slow down, completely chew your food. Take your time, enjoy your meal. A lot of times we overeat not because we like food too much, but we're not getting enough enjoyment out of the food we're eating. So taking your time will let you taste that food better and get much more enjoyment out of it and be satiated sooner. And then the last one that I want to add is be prepared. No, I'm sorry, I got two more. Be prepared. And I talked about packing up my lunch. I use the pre-logging as a way to do that, where I'll do a pre-log in the morning. And I know, okay, this is what I had for breakfast, the eggs and the sausage, and that's my breakfast. And then I know, okay, I'm going to want a snack about midday, so I pack up some nuts, maybe have an avocado with me. Then I'll go in and say, okay, for my lunch, I'll go ahead and pick up 5 ounces of spinach. It's already pre-washed and ready to eat. I've got some balsamic vinaigrette that I've made with some good olive oil and some good balsamic vinegar and some spices and herbs. And so I package that up, put that in my little cooler, and maybe a can of sardines. I'm kind of weird like that. I do like sardines, and they're great fish for you. They do come in a can. Can't help that, but they are just sardines and water. That's all that's in there. So I'll go ahead and pack that lunch up. I've got my snacks. I've got my lunch. I know exactly what I'm eating. And then when I come home from dinner, I already have my dinner planned. I already know what it's going to be. I may have cooked it on Sunday, so I have all these meals made ahead of time. So I know when I come home, all I have to do is warm that up and I've got dinner. So being prepared puts you in a situation where you're not going to end up having to stop at a vending machine or stop at a fast food restaurant. Because, best intentions, you say you're going to pull through the Wendy's drive-thru and you're going to get a salad. And before you know it, you're driving off with a spicy chicken sandwich and a big thing of fries and a Coke. They're built to do that. The fryers are right there in the back, so you can smell that food as you pull up to that drive-thru. That's intentional. They want you to order the greasiest, fattest food on there. They don't make any money selling you that salad. They make a lot of money selling you the burgers, fries, and upsizing those meals. So again, be prepared so that you're not caught off guard. And then the final one is, so that you're getting good nutrition, you should constantly be trying new foods. I've read this in a couple of different places over time, but our taste buds actually change over time. And I know this is true because when I was younger, I hated cream cheese and cheesecake. I hated cheesecake. Even the frosting that tasted like cheesecake, I hated. I hated mustard. I hated mayonnaise. There were a lot of foods that I really disliked when I was a kid. I didn't like scrambled eggs. I didn't mind them fried or boiled, but I didn't like them scrambled. Over time, my taste buds have changed to where I now can eat a much bigger palette of food. I also, because I've gotten away from the sugars, I don't get the sugar cravings that often. If I do eat some sugar, I may find myself kind of craving it a little bit, but for the most part, I don't. And so if you're trying new foods on a regular basis, you're giving your body the opportunity to get a good mix of nutrients. If you find yourself eating the same foods every day, well, you're giving it the same minerals and vitamins and nutrients every single day, then you're not getting a good spread across the different minerals and vitamins and things that your body might need. So getting a good variety of foods, trying new foods, these are all important to making sure that you're feeding your body the right thing. And one easy way to do this is to really focus on foods that are in season where you live. So if the food's locally grown, it's going to be about as good and mineral rich and vitamin rich as it can be, having been grown locally. If it happens like right now, it's pumpkin season and it's squash season. And so, when we go to the farmer's market, there's a lot more squash, zucchini, and all those kind of things. There's not a lot of berries in the early spring stuff that comes out. So, we're eating less berries and now eating more of these in leaf greens, So make sure you're spreading yourself out, trying new things. When you go to a farmer's market or you go into a co-op and you see a vegetable that you don't recognize, pick it up. It doesn't cost a whole lot. Pick it up and you see what the name of it is. Get online, find yourself a recipe, and give it a shot. You might be surprised what you enjoy if you try those new foods. So these are the 11 nutrition tips that I have. I'll go back through them really quickly so we can just kind of recap. But the first and number one nutrition tip is cut your sugar. You can cut your sugar down to zero. Your body doesn't need sugar to survive. Having just some basic complex carbs occasionally is all your body really needs to keep going. So cut your sugar. Drink more water. This is particularly important if you're losing weight because that body fat that you're losing is releasing the toxins and your joints need it because you're probably moving more now that you're working on being more healthy. Cut the simple carbs. You don't need those carbs. They're just like sugar, just to try to avoid them. Protein. Figure out about how much protein you need and just make sure each day you're getting it. For most people, it's probably a serving or two, maybe 3 of some meat source. There's absolutely no reason for people to be drinking protein shakes and all that kind of protein bars and whatnot. It's kind of a waste of your money because you should be just getting enough protein from your natural foods. And unless you're an extreme athlete who's really, really building muscle and packing it on, doing hard work, probably don't need as much protein as you might be eating right now. So kind of just play with that a little bit and understand what your right protein level is. Stick to whole foods. If you don't know that it was an animal or a plant, it probably has been processed and it probably isn't the healthiest thing for you. So go for whole foods. Make most of your diet whole foods. If you buy something in a box, or even if you buy something that's not in a box, go look up the nutrition facts on it or read the labels. Understand what you're putting in your body and what it means to you. Certain meats are going to be more lean than other meats. And so, if you're eating a chicken breast, obviously that has a lot less fat in it than the thigh of the chicken. And you'd be surprised at what that difference can be. So just, again, look it up and understand what you're eating. And then that way you can help manage what's going on in your body. Pay attention to portion size. Again, we've been trained to eat far too much, and we need to train ourselves to get back to being satiated with normal portion sizes. Otherwise, we're never going to get to our goal weight. We're just going to continue to yo-yo because we'll always be overeating because we're always eating too much at each meal. Logging. Make sure that you're logging your food as a way of training yourself what's in the foods that you're eating. And over time, you can get out of logging, but just know that logging is a great way to kind of get into the process of seeing and knowing what you're eating. Slow down. Enjoy the food that you are eating. If you take the time to enjoy it, you'll actually find yourself eating less. You'll be satiated more, and you're allowing, again, the ghrelin and the leptin to do their cross signaling and get you full, make you feel full when you should be feeling full and not getting to a point where you've now overeaten because you overate while you had not allowed that signaling. And then be prepared. Do batch preps of food so that you have food ready. Pre-packaged nuts and other things that you want to eat for snacks, and just have them available to easily grab when you need a snack or want to take something with you. And all these different things about being prepared is really important, because most of the time that people find themselves eating something really bad is when they've put themselves in that situation where there's no avoiding it. They're hungry and they want something, and they're making decisions while they're hungry, which is the worst time to make the decision what you're going to eat. Plan what you're going to eat and know what you're going to eat, and that way you'll be able to stick to your eating program and what you want to accomplish. And then the final one is try new foods. Don't be afraid to experiment with new foods. There's nutrients in those foods that your body probably wants and needs. There's a lot of other opportunities for you to try new spices, to try different foods from different regions. And then again, look at what's going on seasonally around the area you are so that you can buy the most nutritious foods. And when there's an oversupply of some of these things at the farmer's market, you can get some really good deals. And you end up buying a lot of the stuff. Maybe you go ahead and just prep it all that Sunday, and then you freeze it, and you've got all that ahead of you. So be looking for what's fresh, what's new. Try something, and again, just give your body what it needs. So I hope you enjoyed these nutrition tips. If you have some of your own, I'd like for you to go to 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/169, and in the comments on that post, why don't you go ahead and post your nutrition tips? I'd really like to hear if there's some more. We can start kind of building a little library there of nutrition tips. So again, go to 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/169 and share your nutrition tips with me. Next time on the 40 Plus Fitness Podcast, we meet Cindy O'Meara. She made the documentary, What's with Wheat? Until then, have a happy and healthy day.